I thought I'd do a little tutorial video today. I'm going to try and keep it as brief as possible. Whenever I'm out on SoundCloud, I notice that a lot of the mixtapes that are getting posted by some of the newcomer producers, are not actually beat matched, and they're not key matched. Basically, what I'm going to show you how to do is how to use software such as Ableton Live to beat match and key match two songs into a fluid mix. I haven't really done any preparation here for this, so you're going to see it as I do it, pretty much real time. Okay, so the first thing is go out and buy a piece of software called Mixed in Key. What it does is it analyzes all your music and it assigns a key and a tempo. And the most important two things when you're going to mix two songs together is that the keys are compatible and the tempos are compatible. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix two songs here. I'm going to start, my first track is going to be The Light by La Castlevania, and it's in the key of 1A, and it's a tempo 128 song. I'm going to mix that track into Chris Malinchak At Night, which is 120. Now those two are pretty far apart, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it right in the middle at 124. So I've already got my Ableton Live software here set to a tempo of 124. I'm going to start with the song The Light. Okay, so we're just going to drag that out of Mixed in Key, put it in Ableton here, and then double click on it. It's going to load the track. So I'm going to hit the warp button down here, and that's going to start me off with putting a single warp marker in here. Now, according to Mixed in Key here, I know that this track is a tempo of 128. So I'm going to kind of zoom in here, and I want to get this first downbeat. If I play this right now, this is the first downbeat. That's why I picked this song, because it's going to be really simple. It's basically the one count. If you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4 is what you want to find. So we're going to zoom way in on this, and I'm going to set a warp marker right here at the zero crossing. I don't know if you can see this on YouTube, but Ableton puts a little marker there indicating that that's where it's at. So we're just going to double click on that, and that's going to insert a little warp marker. It turns yellow. And then we have to get rid of the first one it inserted, which is way back over here. If you can see it, it's kind of halfway off the screen there. We're going to double click on that to remove it. We're going to drag the play marker up here. I'm going to right click on this yellow warp marker that we just set, and I'm going to say warp from here straight. So that sets our 1 count right there. I'm going to move my play marker right up to that 1 for the first downbeat. Now what I want to do is I want to go a little bit later in the song where I can find a good downbeat, and I'm going to make sure that we're still pretty close. Okay, I think we're still pretty close. We can, if I zoom way in here, you just want it to be as precise as possible. Here, this snare might be a little better. We'll just drag this guy forward just a hair. There we go. Okay, so now I've got basically the entire song is beat mapped. It's playing to where it's synced up with our software. Down here in the sample editor window, I'm going to change this from the default value of beats for the warp mode. If I can. I'm going to change that to Complex Pro. And you pretty much, if you're mixing songs, you always want to use either Complex or Complex Pro. That determines some very technical aspects of how it time stretches. For the purposes of mixing songs that are complete, you pretty much always want it set to Complex Pro. Okay, so now we have La Castlevania The Light, 128 tempo song that's actually playing at 124, because that's what our project here is set to. So we start that off, and now I'm going to take a moment here to go into kind of the mastering aspect of this. I typically set all of my tracks at -8 for their master level at the individual track. And then what I'm going to do on the master, I'm giving away some of my production secrets here. I use a plugin called Oxford Inflator. I'm going to drop that into the master track, and we're going to set it to a maximum output of negative 0.32 decibels. That's going to make sure we don't clip our digital signal. Definitely don't want that. Now I'm going to boost the input by about 6 decibels. So on the input side, I've got 6 plus 6, and on the output side, I've got minus 0.32. That's going to ensure that we don't clip our digital output when we render it. So there we've got a nice clean sound. Okay, so now we're going to get into our mix. I'm going to go back to mixing key here, and I'm going to mix this with Chris Malinchak. At Night is the name of the track. It's a little slower. It's at 120 BPM, but it's also in the key of 1A. And I've never actually done this mix. I'm doing it real time for you, just as I would. So now what I've got to do is I've got to do the same thing for this track. So I'm going to solo it, first of all. I'm going to set the volume level to -8. I'm going to open up the track editor here. It's still loading. And now that we've got this track soloed, I'm pretty much only going to hear it. So I'm going to zoom in. Well, first of all, I got to hit warp. Then I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to find the starting downbeat, which is, I already know it's right here. So I'm going to set a little warp marker right here. I'm going to do the same thing and go back and delete the initial warp marker it put in. I'm going to right click the one we inserted and click warp from here straight. And it is already determined that this track is at 120 BPM, which is correct, just like the other one. I'm going to move my play marker forward to the downbeat where it's marked 1. And then I'm going to go till, well, for our purposes, I don't have to go to later in the song because I'm only doing one mix here. But just to make sure everything in the front end lines up here, I'm going to find another downbeat and drag this forward a little bit. Okay. Let's see if we're all lined up here. We're pretty close. Drag that a little bit. Okay. Now I'm kind of making an assumption here since I've never actually done this mix. I'm assuming that both of these songs are straight tempo. In other words, they were rendered real time using a computer, which means that they're going to be pretty much perfectly matched. So now what I've got to do is on our first track that we're mixing out of, I've got to find the downbeat where I want to start the second track. And I'm thinking it's right here at 129, but I'm going to go back a couple measures here. Okay. So I've got this placed right where I actually might move it forward a little bit, but excuse me, I've got it placed pretty much close to where I want it. So I'm going to unsolo both tracks, and just strictly as it is right now, we're going to see what it sounds like. Okay, so now both tracks are playing. The second track coming in. Now we've got both basses going there. We don't want that. But it still doesn't sound bad. But I'm going to show you how to kind of eliminate that. Okay, so right here at 161, right here, that's where I actually want the bass of the second track to come in. So I'm going to drag it forward until it's right there. So what we should have here is this track kind of dropping out. Okay, there's where it kind of drops out. And then at the same point, we have this, our second track coming in. So you can see that's kind of where we want it to drop. So we'll listen to it from a little back with both tracks playing here. And there you go. Two beat match, key matched songs. Okay, so that's good in and of itself, but now we want to do some editing to kind of really make this mix pop. We really want it to kind of come out. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to extend the intro on this Chris Molenchok track a little bit. So I'm just going to take the first few measures here, which is just a repeating loop. And I'm just going to copy it. Command C, paste, paste. So now we've got that extra little bit of intro there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the volume down, highlight the section. I click on the volume little adjuster window here and highlight it, and I'm just going to drag this line down. So this is doing our little automation. And then for the next chunk here, I'm going to drag it down a little bit. We want it to kind of be building into it. Next chunk. So roughly like that. And on this first track, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in an EQ. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop the bass out of this first track. And I'm not going to go into all the details to how to set this up, but basically you pick the high pass. And what that sounds like is we mess with it. I'll play it here and show you what it sounds like. Okay, so that gives you an idea of what the high pass does. So now if I just click this frequency adjustment here, I get the automation line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of drop out the bass right here towards the end. So what that should sound like is bass and then no bass. Okay, see how it drops out the bass there? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the volume little window here. That brings up our volume line. And I'm going to slowly start dropping out this volume. Just a little tiny bit as we move towards the end here. That may be a little too much, but I'll adjust it as necessary. So now let's listen to the whole mix and see what it sounds like. So there we have our kind of our entire mix there.